Welcome to the Fancy Thinker. I'm Jared, and today it is time to do 3 short reviews of some shorter works that I recently finished. And, a couple of them are related in that they have undead, and they're humorous, which is good. And a couple of them are related in that they are making some commentary on society and some sharp-witted commentary. Some, what do they call it? Satirical commentary, you might say. But with all that said, let's get into these 3 short. These are off-the-cuff reviews, nothing written about them. I'm just giving you my thoughts as they're coming to me right now. So the first one I'm going to talk about is JCM Berne's Blood Reunion. This is the 3rd book in the Hybrid Helix series by Joe Berne, and I'm always, as of today, I am always glad to get back to these books in this series because they're a lot of fun to read. Of course, this is the series about, basically a superhero in space who punches spaceships and other. Well, actually, he punches monsters more than he does spaceships. But we have space bears, the Ersons, I think, and we have all kinds of strange other alien race, species, creatures, things. And we have, this was mentioned before in the first 2 books, so should be no surprise that we also have space vampires in this one. Yeah. And you wouldn't think vampires and science fiction superhero stuff go together all that well, but Joe Berne makes it work, and he makes it work fun. It makes it fun to read about, and he makes the threat real. You would think that in a space setting, science fiction setting, that vampires might not have too much say in what's going on in the universe, but Joe Berne makes it work. The vampires, the threat is imminent. It's real, or as real as this kind of story gets, and they are, they're a challenge for our hero, and that's what makes it fun, what makes it exciting, and it's what makes it really cool to read about. And this being the 3rd book in the series, the in a kind of episodic like serial that that's presented to us here by Joe. You have to keep things fresh. You have to keep things exciting. You got to think of something new to present the reader, that you're not falling into the rut of just the monster of the week. And I think Joe did a pretty good job of that here. He expands upon what we've already seen in the first 2 books, and he gives us a few wows in there, a few surprises, a few tidbits of information that you wouldn't have guessed it was going there. And so that was fun. I'm glad he managed to do that. And we'll see if he can do it again and again and again. I think he's up to like 6 or 7 books now, maybe 8, or working on the 8th. I'm not sure, but either way, this is the challenge of writing in a series like that, is making it fresh for every book that comes out. And with Blood Reunion, Joe managed to do that, and so it was fun to read. My only complaint, I guess, would be I seriously was yelling at the book to tell Rohan, our main character, to shut up. And so that's part of Rohan's character. He blabs when he shouldn't, and And so I was yelling at him to shut up a lot. I wanted, because he kept interrupting people when they were talking to him, and I don't appreciate that, Rohan. But other than that, yeah, a good time to be had in this book. All right, so moving on. I also read another novella from the volume one of Bauchelain and Korbal Broach by Stephen Erikson. And I read The Healthy Dead, which was the second Bauchelain and Korbal Broach novella published right after Midnight Tides, but is the third story presented in this volume for some reason. I don't know why. These stories are pretty much self-contained. So, but that's, publishers do what they do. Needless to say, this is short novella is, it's in this volume, it's over 100 pages long. So it's not that short, but it's spaced out pretty well. So I guess it does fly by really fast. And here's a second story today that has some undead in it. Of course, we're dealing with our two favorite necromancers here. Two scary necromancers when you really sit down and think about it. But yeah, Erikson does some pretty interesting things in this story. There's the main commentary. I guess I'll say the first thing, like this is like the title page for the story here. It says, "Warning to lifestyle fastest everywhere. Don't read this or you'll go blind." That's pretty funny. And yeah, that's that's basically what the story is about. It's satirical. It's he the main crux of the story is that in the effort to promote what you think is right and good can backfire and become something very bad. And that's what occurs here. And then when that occurs, you may have to call upon the talents of very despicable people like Bauchelain and Korbal Broach. So, yeah, the desire for goodness leads to the end of civilization, is one of the quotes in here from one of the characters. So, this is another, tons of tongue in cheek in the story, The Healthy Dead, and tons of the Erikson's humor really starting to shine here in these books. At the time this was written, he has a very dry sense of humor, especially when it's presented through the lens of Bauchelain, and and his servant Emancipor Reese, who's just a wonderful character, and because when they speak, they're very serious with each other, and that seriousness is reflected in the situation and turns just a ridiculous situation. He has this undead talking heads, and but they just go through these and they're saying silly things like, "Oh, I wish you could find my body and put my head back on," something like that, and it's amusing, but it's also horrifying. But the way they talk about it, they're quite serious about, fetch me that head or fetch me that body or whatever. And so it becomes an amusing jaunt through this thing, through this town called Quaint. That's funny. And anybody who's going to take these stories too seriously may be disappointed in them. But of course, I don't. Life is a bit too short to be taking anything really seriously, especially literature that's supposed to be amusing. So, in a typical Bauchelain and Korbal Broach fashion, you're not really sure who comes out better off here, as the achieving their objective in the story isn't necessarily what anybody wants. And so I guess the moral of the story is be careful what you wish for, So The Healthy Dead by Steven Erikson. All right, and one more thing I want to talk about today is a graphic novel called Human Nature by Darren Aronofsky, the famous filmmaker. And he's not the main writer on the book. I think it's just his idea and his studio that's putting it out. And but he has a couple other writers in here, as well as artwork by Marazzo, Marcos Marazzo, I think his name is, and Martin Marazzo, who I've seen on some other stuff. I can't remember what, but this is satirical sci-fi. And yeah, if you're familiar with Aronofsky's work in film, you will know that this gets pretty weird. It gets pretty strange. This is book one in a trilogy. It's a Human Nature book one, and it starts off with this not likable character, but it's a character who you can respect somewhat because he built his business empire on his own, through his own means and his own chutzpah, I guess, his own ambition, and of course, in typical fashion, it turned him into quite a jerk, and so his journey, his ambition, and his drive to succeed at whatever he thinks he needs to succeed at, whatever he sets his mind to, is the impetus for his the beginning of the journey that he takes in here. He he comes down with a bad diagnosis of cancer, and what he does in order to prolong his life, that's his goal now, so he takes this setback, any setback that he encounters in here, and he thinks of a way to get out of it. And so you can respect that, even though you don't really like the guy that much. And I think that's what the character has to grow in order for the reader to grow with him, to eventually want to empathize with him. And I mean, you can find his plight sympathetic in a lot of ways, but empathizing is another thing that is going to take some time to accomplish with this character. And then it gets very strange after that. It goes into some very weird sci-fi territory. You're not 100% sure what's going on sometimes, because he doesn't know what's going on half the time. And so as the story progresses, it gets stranger and stranger, and you do sense that there will be reasons for all this. You do sense that there will be things in the next two books that tell you exactly why he's in the situations that he's in towards the second half of this book. And so it's a nice package. This is put out by Abrams Comic Arts, Abrams Books, and the same people who did the adaptations of Octavia Butler's Kindred and Parable of the Sower. So it's a very nice package, very well put together, very well done. The artwork, it's not my favorite style of artwork, but it is perfectly done. It's superbly done. It's kind of a European style. And so, kudos to the people who put this together. It is a little high on the pricey side, but that's not too surprising nowadays. For a big, thick graphic novel, you expect to pay upwards near $30. Uh, but I think it's worth it. I think it's a nice package. It's a very well put together book, and it's presenting us a story that we're all familiar with in one way or another. The rich guy who pulled himself up by his bootstraps and made his own business empire, then going through this journey of self discovery that he needs and we need in order to empathize with him, and him to be able to empathize with other people. And it gets really strange. Yeah. Okay. So if that's your thing, you're probably going to like this. If you're familiar with Aronofsky's work, you're probably going to like this. All right. So that's my three short reviews for today. If you read any of these, let me know. Or if you're going to read them now, let me know. All right. With all that said, please be good to each other. And thank you very much for watching.